Kayla, a dietitian for the Center for Community Health and Prevention. And today we are in my kitchen to talk about cottage cheese. So if you've been online recently, especially on TikTok or Instagram, you might have noticed that cottage cheese is really everywhere. It's kind of this year's version of cauliflower, and that it's popping up in ways that you might not expect and turning into foods that don't seem like cottage cheese would really fit into them. And you might be wondering, is this a good swap? Is this making foods healthier? And does it even taste good? So I'm here to help you with that and to answer both of those questions. So to start out with the nutrition, cottage cheese is a great source of protein. So this is a half a cup serving. And in half a cup of cottage cheese, you get about 12 grams of protein, which is great if you're looking for a protein source for your breakfast or for a snack. Cottage cheese can really help you there. It's also going to give you a bit of calcium. But one thing we want to note about cottage cheese is that it's really salty. And you might not notice that salty flavor when you're eating it, but it's high in sodium. So every half cup serving is going to have between 300 and 500 milligrams of sodium, depending on the brand that you buy. So be aware of that and try to pair it with foods that are going to be lower in sodium to help to balance it out. Or be aware of where you're getting sodium in your diet over the course of the day, because we want to be limiting sodium to about 2,300 milligrams per day for healthy people. And half a cup of cottage cheese is about a quarter of your day's worth. There are some brands of cottage cheese that also add live and active cultures to them. So like the probiotics that you would find from yogurt. So that's kind of a neat way to get some more probiotics in if someone isn't a fan of other fermented foods. So cottage cheese can be a great nutritional addition to our diet. Now, as to the question of whether or not it tastes good, I have to say that your mileage may vary there. For many people, the texture of cottage cheese is kind of tough, that it's a little lumpy and gritty. And for those people, some of these new trendy ways of using cottage cheese might work for you because they blend up cottage cheese and get rid of that grittiness, that texture that many of us don't care for, myself included. And one of the applications of that is cottage cheese ice cream. It sounds very strange, but what you do is you add cottage cheese to a blender along with some sweetener and flavorings of your choice. This one that I made is a chocolate peanut butter flavor, and you wouldn't know that it's not real ice cream. You just want to note that if you make this, it does freeze very solid because you're not churning it, you're just blending it and then popping it in the freezer. So it freezes really hard and it takes a while to thaw. So you're going to have to pop it in the microwave or else let it sit at room temperature for a little while to get it soft enough to scoop. So cottage cheese ice cream was a winner. Another fun way to use cottage cheese that doesn't have that, gritty texture is in cottage cheese cookie dough. So this one wasn't as much of a win for me, but you might enjoy it. This is cottage cheese blended with some almond flour, as well as maple syrup, vanilla extract, and some recipes also use protein powder for a little boost of extra protein. And it's supposed to taste like cookie dough. I don't know that it's quite there, but it is a fun, like higher protein afternoon snack. You could pair this with some like sliced fruit or maybe a whole grain cracker and make for a really nice afternoon treat. But don't go into it expecting cookie dough because it doesn't taste exactly like cookie dough. It is safe to eat though, because you're not using any raw ingredients as opposed to cookie dough itself. So that is a plus there. Another option is as this like snacky meal plate. This is very trendy on TikTok right now, using cottage cheese as a source of protein, but using also like some cured meats and then pickled vegetables. If I were to do this, what I would recommend is skipping the deli meats because that's going to add a lot more sodium, and so are pickles. So I would just add vegetables. I have some cucumber here, and then you could add some whole grain crackers to make a more balanced plate so that you've got a source of protein, some fiber-rich carbs, and a fruit or a vegetable. That helps with that nutritional balance. As is, it's going to be a little high in salt, but could make for a balanced meal if you just tweaked it a little bit. And it would be very easy and simple to prepare, not take much prep work. The last one that I wanted to show here is using cottage cheese as a toast topper. So this is a way to add some protein in. It's also going to help cut back on saturated fat as opposed to using like butter. So that's a nutritional plus. You could either top it with fruit, this is a nectarine with a little bit of honey drizzled on, or you could go a more savory route and make it into almost like a caprese salad situation with some sliced tomato, maybe some basil on top. So toast topper, I used whole grain toast, and would make for, a nice small meal or a snack. The last option I wanted to show is a smoothie. You could use cottage cheese as a base for a smoothie, as a way to get some more protein in. I would say this works well in place of like Greek yogurt. It's going to be a similar nutrition profile. It's just going to add a little more saltiness and a little less tang than Greek yogurt. So it's going to be more of a taste change than a significant nutrition change. You're going to get a similar amount of protein in it as you would from Greek yogurt, but can be a fun way to get more of a cheesecake kind of vibe in your smoothie. So if you're someone who enjoys cottage cheese, this is a great time for you because it's everywhere. But if you're someone like me who's a little more cottage cheese skeptical, there are still some fun ways to add it in. And I didn't even cover half of the ones that are out there. This is just a few. But try it, experiment. Ways of changing up your routine that make healthy eating fun are always a worthwhile experiment. So thanks for joining me to chat about cottage cheese.